I'm Larry Kavanagh, and I'm here to read a part of my new book, Do Octogenarians Count Old Goats to Go to Sleep? Published by Amazon, and you can get it on Kindle, softcover, or hardcover. And let's get started. This is my 5th book, and it's all about how people who get to be really old still find a lot of good things to do that are better than just sitting around waiting for God. The setting is my favorite little, almost mystical place in central Virginia called Louisa. And the heroes are a fictional couple named Jimbob and Sue Ann Hassenfuss, who might bear a small resemblance to me and my wife, except that the Hassenfusses have more fun and they are considerably more exaggerated. Enough said. Here's a reading from one of the chapters in the book. Jimbob and Sue Ann were sitting at home, as usual, having finished dinner promptly at 5:30, letting the baked chicken digest in their stomachs as they washed things down with another splash of wine. It was too early to turn on the evening news, and there was not much good news to be expected anyway. They could pass the time by looking through catalogs, or they could talk. There was always the weather. "Did you get caught in any rain today?" Jimbob asked. It was a conversation starter. "No, dear. It rained yesterday, not today." A pause. From Jimbob. Maybe we could do something tonight. Play a game?" "I suppose. We haven't done cribbage in a while." "Okay, let's do it." Jimbob said this with only the minimum amount of enthusiasm. He was hoping for a different activity, but this would do. No, dear reader, the something else he was thinking about isn't what you were thinking. His something else was to talk about another bright idea he had, but he felt he could probably work that into the conversation over cribbage. And so they brought out the cribbage board and a deck of cards, played a few hands. Sue Ann outscored him and built up a strong lead. Then Jimbob seized his moment. "Good thing we're not playing for money. Ha ha. By the way, I've been thinking about something. Ever thought that maybe we could open up a little shop?" "You mean something would have to open and close every day? Something with a cash register that our employees could steal from?" "Well, I'd rather put it another way. I was thinking about maybe a little bookshop, one that also serves wine and cheese. People could come in, buy a book, and then read it in a little reading area we had set up. We could also have book clubs, stuff like that. The shop would be open with whatever business hours we wanted, and we could close it whenever we wanted to take a break. So, we could shut it down whenever we wanted to leave and take a bucket list trip?" "Sure. It would just be a little place. No employees except you and me. If we needed to take something out of the cash register, it would be just us anyway." "You realize, I hope, that we wouldn't be making any money at this little shop?" "Yes, I will concede that it wouldn't make much money. But that's not the only thing. This would give us an activity that would be pleasant and might do some good for the neighborhood. People would enjoy coming in, buying a book, and having a nice place to read it." "Can't you do that at the public library?" They don't have wine and cheese at the public library." "So, why not throw in beer and whiskey and open a bar instead of a reading room?" "I didn't mean to go that far. If it was a bar, you'd have to be open late at night, and you might have to contend with an occasional drunk. If it's a reading room, you can close at any time you want, even the middle of the afternoon." "What if nobody wanted to buy any books? What if they just wanted free Wi-Fi and cheap booze?"
Oh, I suppose we could control that. Let's say no Wi-Fi, and you couldn't order wine or food
unless you bought a book. What about coffee? Shouldn't you be able to drink coffee instead of drinking wine all day? Okay, we'd also have coffee and tea, but we'd have to make it kind of pricey. Couldn't let people have a cheap cup of coffee and then take up space all day in a comfortable chair. Say $5 for a cup of coffee and $10 for a latte. And you'd still have to buy a book if you wanted to stay and read. What if they bought 2 books? Would that entitle them to come back a second day? Or what if people came in together and they bought just 1 book between them? Could they both stay for wine? Why would 2 people buy just 1 book? What's the second person going to read while they sit down with their wine? Who says they're going to read at all? Maybe they would just have conversation. Would you be monitoring their reading as well? Can't stay unless you're reading at least so many pages an hour? Well, no. We wouldn't put a clock on their reading. If they bought a book, we would still have a sale whether they read it or not. So, the first person could be reading the book while the second person whipped out his cell phone and played a game on it, or caught up with his text messaging. So that would be 1 book sale taking up 2 reading chairs. I guess we'd lose money on that. Maybe we'd have to make it a rule of 1 chair for 1 book. How about that? Jimbob, dear, I have no doubt that we would be losing money here. I'm assuming that we're simply looking for something that keeps us busy while we think we're doing something good for the neighborhood. I sort of hate to hear you say it that way. Also, I have another problem. How can we compete with Amazon? They have about 1 billion different books in stock, and if you order one, it will be delivered almost before you turn your computer off. And worse, if you order it for a Kindle, you'll have it on your Kindle even sooner than immediately. Our little bookshop couldn't stock more than a few hundred different book titles. There's no way we can offer more than Amazon can. Oh, yes, that's a problem. But, and another thing, would we have to buy all the books we put in our shop before we could get them to sell? Even if we bought them wholesale, that would be a big investment. Yes, but maybe we can get them on consignment. Even on consignment, we would probably have to pay for shipping. And anything we couldn't sell, we'd most likely have to pay to ship back. Sure, that's a problem. But there was a long pause. In the silence, Sue Ann shuffled the deck and dealt out another hand. They played another hand in near silence. Then Jimbob had a sudden inspiration. I know how we can beat Amazon, he said. Oh, really? Do tell me, Sue Ann snickered. Here's what we do. We let people come into the bookstore, and if there's any book they want, we tell them we'll have it in 2 days, and our price will be $1 less than Amazon's price. How do we do that? Simple. We order the book for ourselves, we get it in 2 days or less, and then we sell it to our customers. At $1 cheaper than we had to pay for it ourselves? What a great businessman you are. Now wait, it's not as bad as you think. We make up the difference in coffee and wine sales. Sounds like the price of coffee is going up. How much do you think you can charge for coffee? We'll add $2 to the price we were otherwise going to charge. There's our profit. Jimbob, dear, you have heard the story about selling watermelons from North Carolina, haven't you? No.
Can you tell me?
Sure. These two guys have a truck, and they hear that you can get watermelons cheap in North Carolina. So they take their truck to North Carolina and buy half a load of watermelons at $1 per watermelon. Then they drive back to Virginia and sell all their watermelons at a street corner. At the end of the day, they have sold 500 watermelons, and they have $500. The only problem is they don't have any more money than they had when they started. In fact, they have even less because they had to pay for gas along the way. Now that's silly. They sound like they are pretty dumb. Yes, they're dumb all right, but one of them figured out their solution. And of course what he said was they didn't have enough merchandise. They should have bought 1,000 watermelons instead of just 500. With 1,000, they would naturally make a profit because they would have a bigger volume. Okay, I get it. But this would be a gimmick to get people to come into our store. We'd lose money on book sales, but make up for it on other things. Don't grocery stores and other stores do the same thing? Something is on sale, and it's a terrific sale, and people kill themselves to get into the store and buy it, and while they're there, they also buy other stuff. Another pause. Sue Ann was quiet. Sue Ann was thinking. Jimbob, dear, she said, finally, I'm not sure that I'm at all crazy about your idea. If we have to provide a reading room for all our customers, and if most of them just buy 1 cup of coffee and nurse it for a couple of hours while they take a nap, we'll need a store with lots of space, and most of it will be used up by people and not by merchandise. If you want to have a store to keep you from being bored by your retirement, and if it loses lots of money, like this one probably will, then it will make us go broke, and then we'll have to go back to work in the real world. That's not a good way to solve the problem of too much retirement. Well, what do you suggest? If we want to sell something, we should make it ice cream. Why ice cream? Simple. It melts. After a customer buys it, he can't hang around taking up space for very long because his purchase is melting away. A book will take you hours to read, but an ice cream cone is gone in 5 minutes. Turnover! Jimbob rubbed his chin several times. He wasn't happy, but he was having a hard time coming up with a way to say it. Finally, he responded, and it was sheepish. Actually, Sue Ann, I was looking for something a little bit more relaxing than scooping out 1,000 ice cream cones every day. In a bookstore, I'm thinking I'll have time to read and relax, and that seems nice. Jimbob, look around. If you want to read and relax, you can do that right here at home, and you don't need to buy a bookstore. On the other hand, I'll bet you anything that if you open a book right now, you will be sound asleep in 30 minutes, especially if you have a glass of wine to go along with that book. Try it and see. Now you're making fun of me. Not really, but if you do pick up a book right now, it better be a book of short stories and not a novel because you won't be able to finish anything that's more than a few pages long. So, scooping ice cream is just a way to keep me from falling asleep during the day. Well, you might be right. Maybe we should pick up this conversation another time. That's an even better idea. For now, let me finish beating you at cribbage. My cards are getting cold. So many ideas. So little time. Or is it the other way around? Thanks for listening. Hope you get the book. Just go to Amazon and you can get it on Kindle, soft cover or hard cover. And have a great day.